Before answering your questions this morning, I'd like to address the recent developments in the Middle East. We remain deeply concerned by the deteriorating situation in the region. Canada strongly condemns Iran's direct military strike against Israel. The current escalation of tensions is in no one's interest. We have to put an end to this escalation of violence. We, along with our G7 partners, are calling on all parties to do everything in their power to protect civilian populations, to allow humanitarian aid to urgently reach those who need it, and to respect international humanitarian law. We must find a path towards a ceasefire and the release of hostages, and Canada supports efforts by the US, Qatar. We have from the very beginning recognized the horrific terrorist attack by Hamas on October 7th, required Israel to defend itself, to defend its people. Every country has the right to defend its sovereignty and its people. At the same time, we have consistently called for the protection of civilians and the upholding of international law. That's why we support the work of the ICC and the ICJ, why we continue to call for a ceasefire as we have for for almost a year now. We will continue to work with partners and allies in the region to push for protection of civilians, for humanitarian aid, for Hamas to lay down its arms, for hostages to be released. We need to see peace in the region. The only way to do that is to get back on a path towards a two-state solution where a peaceful, secure Israel is recognized alongside a peaceful, secure Palestinian state recognized by all.
Prochaine question.
Prochaine question.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Jeremy Charles, CTV News. Your House leader seems open to negotiations with Le Bloc Québécois on increasing OAS for more seniors. What kind of increase are you willing to consider to meet the Bloc's demands by October 29th?
We will continue to focus on what we need to do to deliver for Canadians. Our focus, whether it's been investing in seniors with things like dental care or increasing the GIS or increasing OAS for seniors over 75, has demonstrated our commitment to seniors. But the one thing I won't do internationally is get into domestic political disagreements. Know that we remain focused on working for Canadians and are open to working with anyone who's putting forward constructive ideas that are going to make things better for Canadians and for the future that we're all building together.
And on the increasing tension in Lebanon, your government has been urging Canadians to leave the country, so far through commercial flights through the airport. We've seen bombings near the airport now. How concerned are you about the viability of the airport as an option right now to get Canadians out?
We have highlighted many times it's important to ensure that civilian infrastructure like the Port of Beirut and the airport are properly protected and not struck. We're increasing support for commercial flights. There are spaces for Canadians on those planes that have not at this point been filled, so I'll encourage any Canadian who can leave Lebanon to leave Lebanon. We are ensuring flights to be able to do that, because if the situation gets worse, as we are working very hard to try and prevent it from getting worse, it will be extraordinarily difficult for the tens of thousands of Canadians who are currently in Lebanon, and obviously extraordinarily difficult for all Lebanese civilians if things get worse. Okay.
In English, at this point, there's 6,000 people that have registered to get information that may be interested in leaving Lebanon. We still have 2,500 calls to make. We'll be doing these calls over the weekend to make sure that everybody is reached. And we've agreed to add more flights next week, including on Monday and on Tuesday. Of course, these flights will be between Beirut and Lebanon, and at this point there's around 1,000 Canadians that have been able to leave through this assisted departure. Since a lot of seats were not necessarily filled, we were able to work with the Americans, with the Australians and New Zealanders, and we're also working with European countries. So basically my message, like the Prime Minister just mentioned, if you are offered a seat, please take it. We know things are difficult, but we want to make sure that your safety and yours and the one of your family is ensured. So please, thank you.
Good morning, Rafi Bujikani on CBC News. Just on the question of Lebanon, the two Canadians who were killed on their way to the airport, and we know the area near the airport has been struck, has been hit. So how safe really is it for people to be going to the airport to get out versus sheltering in place?
The risks in the region have been known for a long time, which is why for the past many months we have been exhorting Canadians to get out of Lebanon. to know that these were dangerous times, and we were trying to encourage all Canadians to get out. The tragedy of the 2 Canadians killed is something that weighs heavily on us, but we know we need to continue to offer opportunities for people to leave to safety, and we will continue to do that work.
And would Israel occupying South Lebanon be a red line for you?
Obviously, we are calling on a ceasefire immediately from both Hezbollah and Israel to be able to stabilize the situation, to be able to ensure that the United Nations resolution begins to be respected again, and to work towards peace, which includes a 2-state solution for Israel and the Palestinian state. We know that the impacts in Lebanon of the conflict in Gaza continue to run the risk of further escalation around the region. So we're going to continue to be firm about calling for an end to the violence, de-escalation, and ceasefires.
Next question.
Canadian press. I'm sure you know people in Lebanon are concerned about the risks of reoccupation south of Lebanon. So you're calling here for a ceasefire. Do you condemn Israel's decision to invade Lebanon?
So we have been consistent about calling for a ceasefire, calling a need to end the violence. The terrorist organizations, Hezbollah and Hamas, have caused countless deaths, but so has the response of Israel. We need to make sure that we see de-escalation, and we need to continue to hold Iran to account for its funding and organizing behind the scenes of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of the Houthis. We need to ensure that we're strengthening sanctions and response, as Israel is legitimate in wanting to respond to Iran's recent missile attacks. But at the same time, we have to be mindful about not letting this situation get further inflamed, not allowing or seeing further escalation of violence or spreading of conflict to the region.
My second question is more on domestic politics. Your friend Gerald Butts recently said in an interview that a fall election is likely. Do you agree with him?
My focus is on continuing to deliver concrete measures for Canadians. We're about to work on pharmacare in the House, and that's going to deliver free insulin to people suffering diabetes, free contraceptive prescription contraceptive and contraceptive devices to women across the country. These are things that Canadians need, particularly at a time where every dollar counts in a family budget. We're going to continue to focus on the things like dental care that have already helped over 800,000 seniors. We're going to focus on things like expanding more childcare spaces at $10 a day across the country. We're going to continue to be investing in both fighting against climate change and creating good jobs. That's my focus. I'll let other people talk about politics.
Croyez-vous?
Yeah. As I said earlier, I'm not going to engage in highlighting domestic political differences on the international stage, but I will say that we have worked constructively with the government of Quebec to deliver concrete responses on immigration, on the challenges related to asylum seekers and temporary workers over the past number of years, whether it's been a reimposition of a Mexican visa, closing of Roxham Road, moving forward on reducing the number of international students, or even reducing the number of temporary foreign workers. There's lots that we have been able to do, and there's more to do. We are there to work constructively while we defend people's fundamental rights at the same time.